Hi, it's Sandy Wyllie. Welcome to my mental health channel, where I wipe away the stigma of mental illness by talking about my own struggles, having borderline personality disorder. I talk about my struggles having post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety and panic attacks, depression. I talk about schizophrenia, bipolar, narcissism. I talk about my different therapies, DBT, psychodynamic, CBT, psychoanalysis, and my unethical therapist as a former patient of almost 20 years. I am not a licensed therapist. I do not hold a degree in psychology, so I cannot diagnose you or give you a professional opinion. And all I ask in turn of you is please be kind in the comments. Be kind to me and be kind to everyone else who comments. We don't need to agree on everything, but we do need to agree on showing each other kindness. Now, if you are new to my channel, welcome. Hit that subscribe button there on the lower right. That way there you will be notified every time I have a new video. If you like what you see, hit that like button there, so I will know which videos are popular. I could do more of those, and which videos bombed, so I'll avoid those videos. So today we're going to talk about codependency. Codependency is the worst thing that can happen to you, and codependency should never happen in your therapy. Now, the longest therapy I had was with Dr. Richard Geist of 16 years, and I was codependent on him. And a good majority, I'm not going to say all because I don't want to get into absolutes, a good majority of his patients were codependent on him too, because he fostered that. Why did he foster that? Because it stroked his ego and it padded his wallet. Now, just like parenting, because therapy is very similar to parenting. Why is it similar to parenting? I've been in therapy almost 20 years. I haven't in the past 3 years. I stopped. But prior to that, it was, almost 20 years in therapy. And I spent 16 of those years with Dr. Richard Geist. And I was sexually in a sexual relationship with another therapist. I've been in that relationship for 3 years. And also, Dr. Richard Geist saw that therapist and me for couples therapy, even though I was married. It was just bizarre. You got to read the books. You got to watch the other videos to get the whole story. Now, here's codependency. This is how Dr. Geist did the therapy. He made his patients so that they couldn't live without him. His exact words to me were, "I can never retire because my patients wouldn't be able to live without me." Can you imagine that? Now, getting back to, I'm sidetracking what I was saying about how a therapy relationship is like a parent-child relationship. The parent is the adult in a position of power over the child. Now, even though the therapist is an adult and you are an adult, they are still in a position of power because you are a vulnerable patient seeking mental help from them. Just like a child is vulnerable and cannot, it needs help from a parent. A young child, think about it. A young child cannot work, hold a job. They cannot, go to the store and buy food. They cannot drive, they cannot hold a job. I mean, they're completely dependent on the parents. And this is the way it is for survival, even out in the wilds. Okay, this is good in the beginning, but as a child grows up, the role of the parent is to give the child wings so that the child can function on their own, because the parents aren't going to live forever, right? My youngest son is 26. I'm 59. I'm not going to live forever, right? I want my son to live a healthy, substantial, worthwhile life without me, to be able to function without me. And in order to do that, he needs to be dependent of me. He needs to, be able to support himself on his own, both financially, emotionally, and in every way, right? It's the same with the therapist. The goal of the therapy is that the patient will be well enough so they won't need the therapist. That's the goal of the therapy. The goal of the therapy is that, the patient gets well and leaves the therapy. With Dr. Richard Geist, that was not the goal of his therapy, because none of his patients left. They stayed because he fostered a codependent relationship with them. So how does he do this? Well, how does a parent do this? Foster a codependent relationship. Never allowing the child to do anything on their own, even a young child. Afraid the child's going to fall down, so not allowing him to try to walk on his own. Okay, that's an extreme, but there are parents like that. These helicopter parents that hover over a child and don't let them do anything. And they never learn to function on their own. Same with Dr. Richard Geist. In the therapy that I was in with him, he made it so that I was so dependent on him that I could not, I became an alcoholic without him. Also, Dr. James Barberia contributed by having sex with me and being physically violent and emotionally and verbally violent with me too. But I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about codependency. Codependency, if you're in a codependent relationship, it's very hard for you to see it when you're in it, because when you're in the middle of anything, abusive relationship of any kind, whether it's codependency or verbal abuse, emotional abuse, it's hard to think that this isn't healthy, that this isn't right, because you're so used to the way it is, because that's been your life, that you can't imagine that it's unhealthy. You can't imagine life without it. The only way that I realized how unhealthy it was with Dr. Richard Geist is by leaving him. And then reflecting, you know how they say hindsight is 20/20, reflecting back on the whole 16 years of therapy, reflecting back on how he made me so dependent on him that I really couldn't function. So how did he do this? How does a parent do it? Like I said, they overly involved in a child's life, not allowing a child to do things for themselves. You should always encourage a child to do things on their own, even a young child, at the age appropriate level, of course. See what I'm saying? My mother was like this with me. She was. I have a video, why I'm glad my mother died, just like G. McCurdy. She wrote the book, Why I'm Glad My Mother Died. I said she beat me to it. I should have written that book. My mother wouldn't let me do anything on my own either. She was holding my hand crossing the street when I was like 14 years old. And if I didn't hold her hand, she'd leave claw marks making me bleed on my arms. See, she wouldn't let me do anything. She wouldn't let me leave the house. She wouldn't let me drive a car. She wouldn't let me do anything. That's not love. Let me tell you one thing. Codependency is not love, okay? Love is allowing your child to grow and develop age appropriately now. Age appropriately. Not trying to push your kid to get a job when they're only 12 years old. You see what I'm saying? Age appropriately. To let your child develop age appropriately on their own. You want to see your child do things on their own. But someone like my mother, who was narcissistic, couldn't tolerate that. Couldn't tolerate that her daughter would grow up and not need her. Then she would have no use in the world because she put all her use on me. Just like if you read the book, I highly, highly recommend the book. Jean McCurdy, the actress, what's it? I'm glad my mother died, or why I'm glad my mother died, something like that. Very, very good book, very good. Her mother only existed to, be her manager. She didn't even want to be an actress. She didn't want nothing to do with it. But her mother's whole life was revolved around her daughter's, stardom. Why? Because it coaxed her ego, made her feel worthwhile. Her mother, not her. Jean McCurdy didn't want nothing to do with it. She only did it to please her mother. See, this is what codependency. The person like Dr. Richard Geist and my mother, they have no, sense of themselves. If someone isn't, totally needing them, then, they don't feel like they have any use. Thank God I'm not like that with my sons, I let them do, I have a severely handicapped son, but my other son, he went away to college for 6 years. He got 2 degrees, 2 bachelor degrees, and now he's going to get his master's degree. He's living at home now, but that's by his choice because he's working full time and getting his master's. Then he might go on for his doctor's. He's not sure about that. And he wants to, pay off all his loans because he has a lot of loans. But we're at whatever he wants to do. We've always encouraged him. I never try to hold him back. I always, whatever he wants to do is encouraged. Holding someone back and fostering a dependence is not loving the person, okay? My mother didn't love me. She was narcissistic. She couldn't love. Narcissistic people don't know how to love. Dr. Richard Geist, how did he foster codependence? He would call patients on his vacation. Now, that's saying I can't go away for a couple of weeks to a few weeks without, contacting my patients. Having his phone available 24/7, always on. Even in the middle of the night, his phone would always be on. That's saying that, not allowing the patients to be able to hold their own, for any length of time. That as soon as, someone gets a little depressed or, I'm not talking about a crisis, okay? I'm not talking about a crisis or a real mental health, emergency. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about having your patients call you 24/7 on your vacation in the middle of the night, fostering that just to flirt with them. That's what he did. Just flirting with them. Like one time I called him at 2 a.m. in the morning, naked, and he picked up, I woke him up and he said, "Is that you, Sandy? Oh, it's so good to hear your voice." Now, why was I calling him? Just to flirt, because I was hot for him, okay? I'm going to be honest. And he's eating that up, and that's stroking his ego. It's like, if someone called you, think about it. If someone called you at 2 o'clock in the morning when you were sleeping, on your vacation, no less, on your vacation, would you be saying to that person, "Oh, it's so good to hear your voice"? No, you'd be saying, "What the hell's wrong? Why are you calling me at this time?" That would be the normal response. And if the person didn't say something like, oh, some emergency that I couldn't wait to the next day or something, or when you came back from vacation, if the person didn't say that, it would be click. And then I would give it to them saying, never do that again. If you call me, waking me up or something, it better be a very good reason. Don't you think? Wouldn't you even say that to your adult children? Would you? Come on. So, the only way I got out of this kind of relationship was, it started when I ended the relationship permanently when my son was brutally beaten. I have a handicapped son, if you haven't watched all the other videos. And he's like an invalid. He can't go to the bathroom by himself. He has very limited language. He has no safety awareness. He doesn't really use that much language. He can't do anything. He can't shower. Basically, he's an invalid. He's like a 2-year-old. And he's in a placement home for other severely handicapped adults that can't function on their own. I'm not going to live forever, right? He's going to be someplace where he's going to be able to be taken care of. And he needs 24/7 care. And one of the staff members brutally beat him. Yeah. So I was like devastated because I wanted to take him home to live, pull him out of that place because I thought he wasn't safe. And my husband said, no, we can't handle him. He's like 6'3" and he's very dangerous, which he has traumatic brain injury. He has violent outbursts. Not all the time, but he can, He has put his hands around my throat. He in other words, it wouldn't be safe to have him home. But I said he's not safe there, and me and my husband were arguing. I was really in a bad way. I did other videos about it. So I called Dr. Richard Geist because he told me specifically 2 weeks before this incident. He said, you can call me and leave a message. I will call you back. So he already set it up that I could do this. It's not like he, set any boundaries. The man didn't know what the word boundaries meant. In every relationship you need boundaries, not just in therapy. Okay? You need boundaries with your friends. You need even boundaries with your husband, okay? This is my body, okay? This is my space. This is my time. This is my boundaries. If you don't respect that, then you're not in my life. So I did call him, trying to explain that my son is brutally beaten. I don't think he's safe because of other staff members there. I can't go into all the details because it's still in the court system, okay? That's still in the court system almost 3 years ago, for 3 years in the court system. And Dr. Richard Geist is still under board investigation. I made a formal complaint with the board. That's still, and they happened exactly at the same time. My son was brutally beaten, and the police came, arrested the man, but now it's in the hands of the court. I called Dr. Geist, and he completely ignored me. And then when I brought it up, never got a call back. He said, he wouldn't even look at me. He turned his whole body away like this and sunk down in the chair. I mean, he turned his body away from me. Not only wouldn't he look at me like this, he went. And then he shouted at me, I was busy. And so I said, well, why didn't you call me back, the next day when you weren't busy? I was tied up. And I'm looking at him like, you told me I could call you. And this was a crisis. My son was unsafe, and I wanted to bring him home, and my husband said no. So there's a problem. And he just wasn't there for me. And then I just stopped talking to him. Had nothing to do with him after that. But going on for years, I blocked him. I blocked his emails. I blocked his phone. His phone number is blocked. Blocked him on my phone. Blocked him in the emails. And then I was just totally, in total devastation over everything. But then, as time went on, and I couldn't sleep at night, and I was having severe panic attacks over what happened, I reflected back on the whole 16 years after I stopped seeing him, and I realized, he made me so dependent on him that I couldn't function. That I was like a little child. He regressed me, let me sit in his lap. He regressed me down to the mental state of a child. So these shrinks play mind games. It's dangerous. I'm warning you. It is very dangerous. And when you're in the middle of it, you don't even know, because just like with a parent, okay? You might think that a parent is wonderful. Oh, look at that. Mommy, buys you all these toys. Mommy takes you all over, on vacations. And mommy dresses you in the finest, most expensive clothes. But you can't get dirty or anything. Oh, no, no, no. You can't go in the jungle gym because you might fall and hurt yourself. But mommy does all these things. Mommy's, in your face 24/7 because mommy has no life, and she's fostering a codependent relationship. So when you turn into an adult, you won't know how to function, and you'll be in therapy all your life. And then the ironic thing, the therapist turns into your mother, who does the same thing, fosters this codependent relationship so that you can't function. But it feels wonderful at the time. And I think I've used this analogy before. Say your parents are divorced and you stay with your mother, and you go, wow, I love staying with mommy. I never have to do my homework. I never have to eat my vegetables. I never have to clean up. I can leave towels all over the floor. My room is a pigsty. I can do whatever I want. Mommy lets me do everything nice. I have so much fun, but I don't want to go to daddy's. Oh no, daddy, I have to go to bed at a certain time. I have to do my homework. I have to pick up after myself. Who wants daddy, I want to stay with mommy, who just lets me do about everything, Oh, I'll take care of that, honey. Let me pick up that towel. I'll fold it and put it in the bathroom. Oh, I'll clean up your room. Oh, you don't have to put your dishes in the sink. I'll do that for you. So when you're in that, you think, wow, isn't that great? I mean, someone picking up after you all the time. You don't even have to put a dish in the sink. Wow! Who wants to leave that, right? You don't realize that is someone who's abusing you, because it doesn't look like abuse when you're in the middle of it. Because how could you think it's abuse? The person is doing everything for you, They're the martyr. They're the one working hard. They're the one who have to clean your room. They're the one who have to put your dishes in the sink. You can't even do that. They're the one who has to buy you clothes and, dress you. They don't let you dress yourself. Oh, no, you have to look just a certain way, You have to have that frilly little dress on and the bows in your hair. You can't pick out what you want. You got to look like a model. You see? It's not until years later when you're out of that and you say, whoa, Nellie, whoa. That's abuse. But that kind of thing is very hard. Abuse, someone calling you names, of course, you're stupid, you're fat. That's abuse. That's verbal abuse. Someone hitting you, that's physical abuse. But emotional abuse is much more difficult, especially when someone's doing everything for you and not letting you stand on your own 2 feet. Because it's very hard to see that as abuse, you know? When you're in the middle of it, you go, are you kidding me? That person's treating me like gold. That person's doing everything for me. How are they abusing me? It wasn't until many years later that I realized that's severe abuse, okay? It's abuse. So I hope that, if you didn't realize that you do now, and that you might see that even in your own relationships, like a controlling husband, won't let his wife have any friends, or, who does everything for her. Oh, I don't want you to work. I'll take care of it. You don't have to work. Or, I'll drive you here. Let me take you here. And does, everything for the woman. The woman has no life. And it looks like, what a wonderful man. Look he does everything for her. He even buys her clothes and dresses. I mean, isn't he great? That's abuse. It's called codependency, and that's the topic of this video today. And if you've experienced it, or you know someone who's experienced it, let me know in the comments, because I love when you feel comfortable sharing. Not trying to pressure you to share, but if you do, I appreciate it, and I'll always respond back.